Welcome back, everyone. This is Akanar here with more Talos Principle 2, where last time we completed the first area in the northern part of the map, the Desolate Island, and we were introduced to our cloning technology, which was a lot of fun. A twist on a previous mechanic, the recorder, a less annoying recorder, perhaps, which is not a bad thing. And I had a lot of fun with these puzzles. Some really interesting ones, a couple stumpers, but we managed to make it through. There are also some implications with this technology in terms of the storyline and our character. At this point, I have no idea whether we are still the real 1K, quote unquote, but I'm just hoping that when we walk out of this area that we, don't disintegrate like we're leaving the holodeck or something, but we are almost ready to move on to the next area. I did do a little bit more exploration, poking around off camera. This place is massive, just like every area before it. And it turns out that there was something that we missed. I had gone for the Prometheus sprite that was in this section, but on the other side, but I had not explored this side of the structure. And it turns out there is an actual Prometheus spark over here. So 2 Prometheus related items. We have still not used any of these sparks, and I do not plan on using any. This is a we solve all the puzzles playthrough. Even if we get stuck, we put the puzzle down, we come back later with fresh brain. But I still like to get all the shiny things. It's a video game after all. You got to collect the shiny things. Now, I did also explore a little bit more of the map. Last time we did go around the coastline, and the only thing we found was the only things were out there were those fans. And I think the only purpose for those fans is just to get you back up to where you're supposed to be. I also did explore, though, some of these mountainous areas just to see if there was an elephant slide or something. I couldn't find anything. I did not explore the whole area, so I could still very much be missing something, but I'm getting the idea. The game feels like it's trying to tell me not to explore. It's weird. It feels like mixed messages because they have put tricycles and elephant slides in far out places in other maps. This one, I don't know. This area, because I think it has a lot of verticality as well, it felt even tougher to explore than some of the other more flatland areas. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Ultimately, if it's just a pachyderm slide out there, we're not missing that much, but I do like to find all the things if I can. It's just, there's only so much exploring you can do when the areas are this massive. I think we're ready, though, to head to the Flooded Valley, North 2, a large valley in the northern region of the inland, inundated centuries ago by rising sea levels caused by anthropogenic climate change. Hopefully, we're not going to be doing too much swimming here. We don't have the insulation for that, but let's check it out. Are we going to have another new mechanic? This magnetic mechanic that they have foreshadowed before? Let's find out.
You're on your way to an island. Yes, another island. Sorry, Melville. Well, it actually used to be a valley between the mountains, but it's mostly flooded now. That probably happened long before the founder came here, though.
Another legacy of our ancestors.
Do me a favor, will you? Look for another one of the founder's labs. We can't get back into the megastructure without getting to the third site in the north, but I need more information to make more fixes.
Roger that. We're always looking for the labs regardless, so we're more than happy to help, Melville. You know, our primary objective here is to solve puzzles, but we explore as well. We got it all covered. There we go. Got some trees out here. It's not completely... it's not totally underwater. Yeah, it would be a tough area to explore if it were completely underwater. So another cool looking tower, and I am very interested. I always get so excited when we get to a new area. What are the puzzles going to be like? We are going to be solving some puzzles, though. They have given us the Sphinx monument right at the start, right at the start here. So why don't we just give a look to that? Do we have any dialogue with Yakut? Not this time. But the Sphinx... What do you have for us this time? We've taken our screenshot for reference later. There are 2 X's that I'm seeing here. but I don't quite know yet how to interpret all that because we haven't explored the island yet. I actually see there are 3 X's. There is an X that's kind of here, I guess, near the tower. But then there's also 2 X's that are in different areas of the island. So we've got that to look forward to. We'll keep that in mind here as we look around. All right, let's head over to puzzle 1. This architecture is very cool. I'm not sure exactly what it reminds me of. Is there, is it that opera house in Australia? Is that what I'm thinking of? I think I've also, there's actually some local architecture. There's, I think, a church in my area that has kind of this, I don't know if there's a name for it, this very triangular building architecture. Let's take a look, though, at absorption. I see there is a new piece of equipment here. What is it called? The Accumulator. The Accumulator. I see. What does the Accumulator do? It allows us to select an emitter. We have a red emitter here and nothing else. What happens if we just set that down and we connect that? Okay. It appears to have accumulated a bit of red signal. It didn't take very long, and now it is glowing red. And the prompt there says to discharge. If we hold it down, I think. If I hold down a right click, it lets go of the red charge. That's... okay. That's pretty cool. So we can grab a red charge. We can take... we can essentially have a temporary red emitter that we can take to another part of the map. I assume that this is only going to last for a brief period of time. Is that correct? Or is it permanent? It actually looks like it might be permanent. You can create your own mobile emitters. That seems extremely powerful. That seems almost too good to be true. Surely there's going to be a catch to this. All right. Now... okay. I think what we have to do is we have to take the second accumulator back to the red source, because it looks like we need to power both red and blue in order to open up the way to the finish line, which means we need 2 accumulators. Because we need a blue, we need one. I'm assuming you cannot have, this would be kind of silly if you were able to get 2 colors in one. That I don't think is going to work. If I go over here, it's probably, what is it going to do if I try to select this? Does it just overwrite the blue? It actually cancels out. So once it accumulates something, it is a mobile emitter until you discharge it, is what I'm reading. So we want this though. Okay, so we discharge this, and I need to do that over here. I don't know what I did wrong there with the right click holding down. I must have been over the emitter, but we need to accumulate a red charge. Okay. So I'm thinking back now to the previous Lost Lab, not the previous one, but the one that showed us that magnetism thing. Maybe that wasn't even a mechanic at all. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of that, but we didn't get any sort of preview of this from what I can tell. Now, what I need is I need this. I need this to act. I need this to power both of these red receivers, because this one we need to discharge and now connect to blue. Can I just go ahead and connect it here? Is that good enough? No, it needs to accumulate first. Okay, a little bit. You have to kind of do a 2-step process, but that's not that big of a deal, and we are at the goal. Okay, the accumulator. Unexpected. I definitely would not have guessed that as a mechanic, and I like it so far. We've only done one puzzle. Let's see how it goes. But I can see there would be some possibilities for this.
Before we built New Jerusalem, we used to explore just like this. Small groups setting out for the horizon, looking for resources, trying to make sense of the world we'd been thrust into, trying to find a way forward. It was a hard time, but I can't deny that it was also exciting. I think it's part of our nature to be wanderers. Our ancestors crossed entire oceans on flimsy wooden boats just to see what else there was.
Is it weird to feel nostalgic for a time I never experienced? I just think I could have contributed so much more back then.
It's not weird, but it wasn't all sunshine. People died. Yemo, Calvin, Isaac.
I know, Al. They were family to me.
Sorry. It didn't mean to reopen old wounds.
It's a legitimate point, but I don't think it invalidates the sense of wonder we felt. That's what kept us going.
So there is a switch here. I have to assume, or it would seem likely that this is connected to the Sphinx puzzle in some way. We'll do the old mist rule, turn a switch on. Although it doesn't actually seem to, we can't turn it off. Okay, I'm hoping that didn't screw things up permanently. Probably not, but yeah, it's a one direction only switch apparently, unless there's a reset somewhere else. Okay, we're still making sense of this area, so we'll just leave that for now. I did find it funny though, the bit that Byron said there about us being wanderers. I definitely feel like that. I definitely feel like that sometimes when I'm just running around here through the trees, looking for a collectible. Look at that. Ask and you shall receive. What perfect timing. I swear, I did not script that. We found what appears to be a washing machine, though. Let's check out the remains. Let's check out our collectible here. An ancient cleaning device. There you go. Since our ancestors excreted various substances from their pores, small openings in their skin, their garments would quickly become a breeding ground for bacteria. Because of this, they had to find efficient ways of cleaning their textiles, a task that otherwise became a significant chore for parts of their population. All right, let's check out puzzle 2. Triptych? Triptych? I've heard that word before, but I don't know what it means. It has something to do with 3. That much I can guess. Okay, there are a red and a blue emitter here. And we need to power, it looks like we need to power 3 receivers. We have an accumulator and an RGB converter. We need 2 blue and 1 green. So it looks like we need to accumulate blue, because how else are we going to power 2 blue with just 1 RGB converter? We need to power 2 blue, I think. The trick, though, is how are we going to power the green? Because the green is in the middle. If I just put down blue like this, then in order to get green, we have to combine red and blue, but right now the blue beams are blocking the way to green. Okay, how are we doing this? A very simple puzzle in that there is not much going on, right? You can see everything that needs to be seen right here. But how are you going to solve it? This is where we're dealing with a brand new mechanic, the accumulator. So there's probably something about this that we need to realize. Something about the accumulator mechanic that we need to become acquainted with. What is that? Is there any way... This is all we're dealing with here, right? We have 1 accumulator and 1 RGB converter. So it's simple enough to power green. If we go like this. But it seems like no matter what I do, I'm going to end up crossing the beams, crossing the streams. And as soon as I pick up the accumulator, that connection is broken. It's not like I can grab it and quickly go over here and power this. That's not how Talos Principle works. I have the ability to connect, and I have the ability to discharge. If I try to connect to... I could accumulate green. Maybe that's the trick. The trick here is not to accumulate blue, but to accumulate green, right? Because now what I can do is I can switch places. I can now take the RGB converter and I can use its green along with red to go ahead and power blue. Okay. This is what we have to start doing with accumulators. Accumulators allow us to reposition emitters. They are mobile emitters. And that includes, potentially, if you have a converter, emitters that don't exist in the first place. Build your own emitter. DIY mobile emitter. Okay, this is going to get fun. And potentially very, very tricky. New interface content. Let's give that a look here before we move on. We've got a research. Oh, the research was our, that was just the Sphinx thing over here, right? So we've got that for reference. We have a new social media post though. Proposal, bring back dogs. The thread title says it all. We should re-domesticate dogs. Our ancestors loved dogs so much. They insisted they were amazing companions, full of life and love. Man's best friend. Dogs are pretty awesome. I will not disagree with that. And the lives they lived with humans must have been infinitely better than in the wild. So why not bring them back? Did you know that the poet Lord Byron wrote a beautiful poem about his dog Boatswain? He said he had beauty without vanity, strength without insolence, courage without ferocity, and all the virtues of man without his vices. Is that who our Byron named himself after? No, he named himself after Robert Byron, the travel writer. That's great, but what about my idea? Yes, Franklin, let's bring it back. What about me? I'm not usually one to kind of come down with a very definitive answer, but I think in this case, I'm going to agree wholeheartedly. Dogs were a beautiful creation. Bring them back. Let's go. The resources we waste on our cats are bad enough. And you know what cats do to local bird populations. Do we really want to add dogs to that? Yes, we do. Oh, sod off with the cats are so terrible business. What do you think happens in the natural world? You think animals don't eat each other? I would love to have a dog. We would go on walks together and it would be excited about every new smell and we would play fetch. It sounds magical to me. See, I don't think we have, why not have both? Things, it's not, you know, cats are the worst, dogs are the best, or the other way around. Why not let each person have their own? Although dogs are the best. All right, looks like puzzle 3 is over in this direction. There's also something over here, potentially. A terminal. Okay, we'll check the terminal after puzzle 3. Let's get another puzzle, because I am really liking this accumulator mechanic, and I want to see more of it. We have some... What are these? Are these accumulators up here? That looks like that's the motif, potentially. All right, crossing. Puzzle 3. We have a jammer this time, and a fan. A fan that takes us over to where we have a box. All right. So we have a box, an accumulator, and a jammer. And a couple fans to send us back from one side to the other. They are not, you don't just go, the fans aren't lined up with each other. So it's not, we haven't yet had one of those puzzles where, you know, I think there were a few of those in the first game where the point was to like set something up on a box and then activate 2 fans to kind of keep it perpetually in the air. We'll see if that becomes, if that comes into play in some later puzzles. What are we doing right now, though? We can jam our way in here, and then we can get the box. I'm also noticing there is a blue emitter over here. Aha, I'm wondering if we could set up the emitter, not the emitter, but the accumulator to quickly accumulate a blue by flying in the air. How else would we do that anyways? That might be the intended path. Oh, here's the goal. The goal is right here, and we need red to get to it. Another one of these where it lowers the bars rather than a force field. Okay. Huh. Let's check over here first. There's a lot to take in with this puzzle. What is here? There's a blue receiver, which I presume lowers this force field. Okay. And then there's a force field here, which is lowered how? Maybe only by the jammer. Okay, and there's a red source here. So we need to kind of... I think the first step is to accumulate blue. And the way we do that is by How do we do that? The trick here with my idea of elevating the accumulator with the fan, the problem with that is the box, when you set the box down, it just flies away right away. And I can't elevate the accumulator without... It just goes in that direction. It has to be on a box if you're going to get it up in the air, right? Right? Was there something... Okay, nothing there. How do we do this? And I can't... No, I can deactivate the fan because I have a jammer. That's how you do it. Okay, we haven't done that for a while. I think we did it in the opening simulation, the boot up simulation. There was a puzzle that had us jam a fan, didn't it? Which is what I just remembered. Okay, so we can take... We want to keep the connections, actually, and put that up there. And now, if we release the jammer, does this work? Boom. It only needs a little bit of time to accumulate that charge, and now it's set to go. So now we can go to this side, and we have our mobile blue emitter. Just be careful not to... They make it pretty hard to discharge it accidentally. You have to hold down or right click, which is not a natural... You're not doing that most of the time in this game, so that's nice that they are allowing you to... Making it hard for you to undo your hard-earned work. So now we can power this guy. And with that, we can now bring this jammer through and jam this. Boom. We take the accumulator, and now we do want to discharge because we need to take red and set the jammer here, and we're good to go. That's a fun one. I like the reminder there of an oldie but a goodie in terms of you can jam basically anything. Anything that is, well, not basically anything, but fans are one of those things that you can jam. You got to keep that well in mind, it seems, as we are working through this new area.
There's so much history here that we can't see. The founder must have walked these paths hundreds of times, maybe thousands. Miranda must have stood right where we're standing. This all looks alien to us, but it must have been familiar to them.
If this was their home, where are they now?
They must be inside the megastructure, waiting for us to pass the test. It's the only thing that makes sense.
I was a little confused for a second how I was going to get on top of this to collect the spark, but it's just a little mini jumping puzzle. No big deal. Just going to quickly check around the coastline here, around puzzle 3. Oh, look at this. There is an opening here that potentially lets you get the red signal outside of puzzle 3. Not sure if that's going to be important, but I feel like that's the first time that we've seen that. Noted. All right, let's check out this terminal. And yet it moves. Author Mitku. A fascinating story I discovered in the archive concerns a great scientist by the name of Galileo. This remarkable man made huge contributions to the early development of science, but was best remembered for becoming embroiled in a controversy with the church that ended with accusations of heresy, a trial, and him being placed under house arrest for the rest of his life. The cause of the controversy? He argued that the Earth revolved around the sun, a view we would describe as self-evident, and which the Inquisition described as foolish and absurd in philosophy and formerly heretical. His story became emblematic for how society often punishes those who try to push our understanding of the world forward in the modern day. There's a legend that at the end of his trial he muttered, "And yet it moves." A beautiful idea, but untrue, because defying society is hard. It comes at a high cost, and not everyone is capable of bearing it. What would you have done in his place? What would I? Miranda, I think I would have tried to stand up for the truth. Athena, it's harder than it sounds. Fighting an authority like Elohim is one thing, but when even your friends and allies may renounce you for holding an unacceptable opinion, it takes enormous willpower to continue. Miranda, but if nobody does it, society gets stuck. Miranda is definitely that, the younger, idealist who, I would have definitely done this thing. I definitely would have stood up to the Nazis. And Athena knows that she's a little bit older and she has the wisdom, maybe a lot older, but she has the wisdom to know that, you know, you might think that you would do a certain thing, but you really don't know unless you're actually there in that position. You just really don't know for sure. There were a lot of people like you that lived back then that didn't do the thing that you say you would do. So understand that things are harder than they seem. Puzzled, archive post, author Guo. The role of puzzles in the simulation was so important to the creation of our civilization that it has left an indelible imprint. But sometimes I worry that this is an issue. Alexandra Drennan thought of human beings as problem solvers, but the real world isn't anything like the simulation. Yes, there are problems to solve, but there isn't a Tetromino waiting to reward you. There's just another problem, and another, and another. Our veneration of the puzzle may be blinding us to the fact that sometimes there isn't a neat solution, that sometimes life is just a slog and the best you can do is muddle through. That is definitely something that I find problematic or frustrating about life, is that yes, it doesn't have those neat solutions all the time, but there often is a solution. You just, it's one that, like he says, you kind of have to muddle through, right? And from Aurora, author Aurora, to Athena. Dear Athena, oh, it's another one of these letters that we've seen, right? Have you really left us for good without even saying goodbye? I know we haven't spoken much lately, but isn't that just part of the slow, relaxed lives we now lead? After all those centuries of struggle trying to build New Jerusalem, I thought we deserved a rest. And if that disappointed you, why didn't you say so? I know you disapprove of all those silly titles they give us now, but we really were your first companions. We know what it was like. I was there when Yemo died. I remember the horror of realizing there was no way of bringing him back, the impossible finality of it, and then the determination to make it make sense, to have it be part of a story that leads to a better world. I never abandoned that, Athena. I just thought that maybe I could spend some time on the things that make life worth living as well. Maybe I lost track. Maybe I failed you. I don't know, because you didn't tell me. Aurora. All right, let's find our way over here to puzzle 4. It looks like there is also a pathway here to the left, so maybe we can check that after the puzzle here. But first, let's see Wellspring. We have a red emitter, and we have a connector, and we have a blue emitter, and we have a accumulator that's behind a force field. We also have a force field powered by a red receiver. Way over here, we have a purple barrier with a connector behind it, and a pretty open area that has a lot of line of sight of the main room. There is actually what looks like an opening here to the red source. Is that what I'm seeing? Similar to what we had on the outside of puzzle 3. I actually can't select that though. Is there anywhere where that is the case? I can kind of see red through there, but it doesn't actually let me select the red emitter, only the connector. I'm not sure if the connector is in the way, but I suspect it would let me get the red emitter if it were possible. We have seen this accumulator. That's the one we did see. I think it's the only one we've seen. And we can also see back here. So I think that's the eventual goal. There's a final force field that also takes red. So we got several layers to work through. This force field needs blue. So it looks like the first step is finding a way to unlock our accumulator by getting blue. And that needs to happen how? Because the blue source is over here, right? So how are we getting blue to this force field? I think that's our first objective. Seems reasonable. I only have the one connector here in the main room, right? And the blue emitter here. Right now, I can't go through the force field. So I would have to shoot blue over here. But surely there must be line of sight somewhere here. Well, maybe not, because there is this vertical fencing that seems to actually block a lot of the openings, or where we would be able to see this connector. So from this angle, it might be that we have to do something else. Or we bring blue here, and we in fact try to activate blue, we can keep this connection, and it looks like maybe we can see blue from over here. Probably. Right? Well, I need to connect this guy as well. Can I find a place? My UI there shows me when I have both of them in line of sight, so it looks like that works. Boom. So there is an angle there that lets us get the accumulator. Cool. Accumulator in hand. Now, with that said, the accumulator is stuck behind this area. I'm assuming it works just like all the other pieces of equipment that don't go through the purple barrier. So we can accumulate blue from one of these if we wanted to, but I suspect we need to accumulate red. Let me think about this. What do we want to accumulate? I think we do want to accumulate red, because that, if we accumulate red, that allows us to have a red emitter here, which should allow us to... Let's look at this again here. If I am over here, I do have, yeah, I've got clear line of sight to this red. It's actually pretty easy to hit this red as long as we are in this vicinity, and one of our connectors can go here, and then the accumulator can be over here. So we'll go ahead and disconnect this guy and hook him up to red, and now power our accumulator. We'll disconnect this one. I'm not sure if this connector figures into things still. Probably does. But let's get our signal accumulated here, which means, because now we can go here. Bring this connector to this side, and that gets us through here. Now, we're still not at the finish, but this at least gets us this far. The last step involves one more red connection. So from this connector, where are we able to see? I'm trying to, these are horizontal bars here, but there are vertical bars right behind them. So how would this work? I mean, I could bring an accumulator over here and just, if I brought the accumulator here, I could easily shoot it to this point, and maybe that's the solution, because we have an extra connector behind this purple barrier. Why not put the connector here and the accumulator? Let's put the connector in this spot, sort of replace it. We can select this, that's fine. And now we take the accumulator and we put it over here, right? Because now I think I can see both this. I should be able to see that one if I reposition that a bit. And then that also lets me hit this guy. So I should be able to put this in a spot where it will have line of sight of both the final force field and this guy. If we just move this forward and reconnect it to the, not the blue receiver. Does this work? I think I just put it awkwardly enough out of position so we can just back this up and hopefully it's okay. I see the red receiver. Where am I? Oh, it's already hooked up. Okay. I was misreading the UI. I was looking at the UI there, thinking that the fact that the connector is gray, it just means that it doesn't have a colored emitter hooked up to it yet. But it doesn't mean that it's out of line of sight. If it were out of line of sight, it would be like a duller gray, right? There's like two different types of gray. This one is a little bit more of a lighter. Okay, small little detail there that was confusing me for just a second, but I think that gets us there. I think now we get through both of these force fields and we're there. Excellent. The Wellspring has been achieved.
Nice.
Very nice. Yakut, are you okay there? You got very excited at us solving a puzzle. What the hell's going on with you? Oh, I do see something here back in the trees. What do we have? Oh, it's another Prometheus sprite, it looks like. Okay, let's make note of that. We'll come back to this because I kind of want to do it all in one go. It might, who knows where exactly this is going to lead us. So we'll make a note that come back to puzzle 4 and do the, we haven't seen the Prometheus statue yet, but I have to believe that that is a Prometheus sprite. For now, let's explore this path that was off to the left of puzzle 4. Although now it forks in a couple directions. Okay, where are we going here? Way back into the trees. Oh, this leads to another one of these switches. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing by turning these on, but that's what I'm gonna do for now. We didn't get any special sound like we won a star or anything, but we can't turn the switch off. Not sure what's going on with those yet. Oh, here's the Prometheus statue over across the water. Do we just, how do we get out to you? No, that's too deep. There must be a path over on the other side somehow. I guess there is a terminal here though. So we'll go ahead and knock out the terminal while we are in the vicinity. So we minimize our wandering. It's a Lithrosir, there we go. An audio log to keep us company here on our journey, our wandering.
One of the most foolish illusions that commonly persist is that nature is a victim and humanity is a perpetrator. This can only be the opinion of someone who has not witnessed nature at first hand, who has not seen its immense and awe-inspiring baseness. Nature is mindless chaos and eternal conflict. A system of predation and consumption whose perfect cruelty can only induce a terrified and unwilling admiration. Nature is our most powerful and least honorable enemy. A beast that consumed every last one of our ancestors and will consume us just as quickly if we are not successful in our struggle with it.
Okay, field of view, our first lost puzzle. We've got a red and a blue emitter and 2 accumulators. And then an inverter. As well as a red and a blue receptor on this side and a red and a blue receptor on this side. Where do those lead? Those cables lead. One of them leads to the force field at the end, and the other leads to this first force field. And then, excuse me, there are some stairs to the right. I don't know if those are just for show, but one way or another, we have to get through this first force field. We have to eventually get through 2 force fields, but one thing at a time, one problem at a time. We can pretty easily get through that first force field, actually, can't we? Because we have 2 accumulators. So we can just take these 2 over here and get through force field number 1. That piece is at least straightforward. Now, is there anything... There's nothing... No, wait. Oh, so there is something... The stairs are important because they have line of sight to these connectors. They have line of sight to these connectors. And what that allows us to do, potentially... Can we set anything up here? It does let us set stuff up there. Look at that. Now, is that the solution to the puzzle? Can we put both of these up here? Or is there only room enough for 1? There is room enough for 2. Is that the puzzle? Did we just... I feel like we just cheesed it. Surely there's going to be something that gets in our way here. Surely something here is going to... I mean, I don't even have to set those up on the ledge, do I? I just need to connect it to red. I could set it down below, theoretically. But isn't that a win? Okay, I feel like I must have done something cheesy there, because there's an inverter sitting here that we totally didn't even use. This lonely, poor inverter just sitting there. What is my purpose? You slice the butter. You serve the butter. Okay. What? I'll take it. I'll take it. What actually is the intended solution, I wonder? Should we think about that for a moment? Should we spend any of our valuable brain energy trying to come up with what was the actual intended solution? Maybe we'll think about that one later. But I'm more than happy to take the cheese. So since we've actually seen the Prometheus monument, and it is kind of on this side of things, why don't we do the spark now and just see if that's something we can go ahead and follow. But knowing how these sparks can work, or sprites can work, we might have a bit of a chase. We might have to go follow a bit of a convoluted route, potentially. Let's find out here. I always feel kind of like I'm in a different game when I hear this music. It's just so different from anything else you hear in Talos Principle 1 or 2. All right, we're kind of meandering up along ground that we've covered so far. This one is also pretty slow moving. I guess they wanted to make sure you didn't get lost in the trees. Because I feel like the one on the last level is moving so much more quickly than this one. And... oh, are we actually going across the water? Oh, there's like a sandbar here. So that's the trick, is that I think if you tried to cross elsewhere, it would be deeper. Okay, so it stopped for a second. It looks like, yeah, I can see it now. There is a sandbar or something equivalent that allows you to cross. Makes sense. It's not too... that is kind of visible. You might be able to find that on your own, but the sprite definitely helps get you there. And there we go. It's right here. Boom. Gotcha. Star time. Let's go. Chasing the light. Activate a Prometheus monument without stopping the spark chasing? Is that... that's an achievement? So we had 2 chances to get that achievement before, and we screwed up because I just take forever. Never stop the spark chasing music.
Impossible, but the future that is possible will seem like a dream to those who are alive.
I suppose it wouldn't be a Talos Principle 2 episode without an audio hiccup. Even Prometheus is not immune. I like this view, though. This tower is simpler than some of the others. It's a lot more... It's not quite as fancy as some of the other structures that we've seen. Elegant is the word, I think, that I'm going for. I like it. Is it shallow enough here for us to get across? It is just barely shallow enough. We were almost neck deep in the water there, but we can get back across here. I think this is a level we've been to, though, right? It's level 3, we can see on our compass. So let's see if we can get back on track here. Where is everybody else, Yakut? You're the only one I've seen so far. Where are the rest at? There we go. Here's Melville. Ask and ye shall receive, it seems like, is what's going on with this today. So why don't we catch up quickly with Melville, because we missed out on your dialogue last time.
What made our ancestors settle in these god-forsaken places? It can't have been easy with those frail, squishy bodies of theirs. What makes a caveman go, yes, this frozen hellscape is where I want to live out my days? You think Byron was right? Is it in our nature to be wanderers?
I think there's definitely something to it, and I also have wondered the same thing. How the hell did cavemen do it? I definitely personally resonate with the idea of being a problem solver. It's part of why I love puzzle games, but just challenges of life in general. Overcoming those, I think, is something that is inherent, definitely to me, and maybe humanity in general.
We do, don't we? A species of problem solvers,
I think so.
like Drennan said. That must be why I sometimes find myself imagining building new cities.
Let's ask her if she ever met the founder.
Of course I did. She and Cornelius were both there when I was born. Neath was just starting to take over back then, and they were still showing her the ropes.
What was the founder like?
Busy. There was always another problem to solve. Did you know that she never upgraded her body? Always prioritized everyone else. That's the kind of work ethic I wish more people had.
So they have this is something that they do on a regular basis. They upgrade themselves. I think maybe they have mentioned that before, but it hadn't stood out to me, just because they've also mentioned how hard it is to fabricate the parts necessary to create a new person. So it wasn't I didn't think maybe they would have the luxury of upgrading themselves. As far as dedication to work, I think I agree with that. It's important, but there also needs to be space for other things in life.
I suppose so. For me, living is doing. But I understand that other people have more varied needs.
Do you ever crave companionship?
I've never felt the need for a partner as such. I've met a lot of people who do. Athena and Cornelius, Atal and Damien, Sarabai and Hypatia. But that's not really for me. So far, at least. But I do have social needs like anyone. What I like is a pleasant buzz of humanity. Not too close, not too far. Something I can be part of without having it get in my face all the time.
A pleasant buzz of humanity. I think that might be the phrase that resonates with me the absolute most. Melville, you are a genius. I am stealing that one. Let's keep talking about the founder. Why do you think she left New Jerusalem?
Maybe she just got sick of things breaking all the time.
What do you think about Miranda?
She's so innocent and full of wonder, it should make me want to retch, metaphorically speaking. But I'll admit, she's sort of charming.
Do you think these data streams, these visions, could affect my mind?
The data stream overloads? Yes, they could. There are safeguards to prevent that from happening, but these aren't exactly carefully controlled circumstances. It's hard to predict. Our brains are absurdly complicated, which is why it's so hard to make more of us.
What about these particle clouds? What exactly do you think they can do?
As far as I can tell, anything, which is insane.
If they can replicate more 1Ks, then yeah, they feels like they can make anything they want. What about Mayor Herman and his policies?
I used to think it was the only safe way forward. Keep things simple and under control. Now I'm not so sure that ever made sense.
Looks like puzzle 5 is this structure over here. So let's give a look at balance of forces. We have an accumulator. And we have a fan that takes us over to another fan. Aha! We do have two fans that are lined up with each other. Now, how do we power this one on? We power it on via a blue receiver, it looks like. We also have a force field with two pressure plates that presumably both lower this force field. Okay. We haven't seen the cloning technology yet at work here. I'd be curious to see when they bring that back into the mix. Right now, we have a box. Okay, there is also a box here, and there's a purple barrier that has a blue source behind it, which is probably what we need to power our accumulator. Eventually, we need a blue signal here. And I'm getting the feeling that this is finally the puzzle, the kind of puzzle that we talked about earlier, where we need to have two fans bouncing a box back and forth between them in order to elevate a signal. That's my guess. That's my early intuition here. Let's see if that plays out. We need to power that fan. So we need this accumulator. I think the only source we have is this blue source. There's a ladder out of here. I was thinking for a second that what I want to do is simply bring the box. We put the accumulator here, so our force field is down. But now we bring the box here to this fan. The fan is still powered off. But as soon as we take the accumulator and put it here, we'll have an elevated box, won't we? Now this is Talos Principle. This is very much a Talos Principle thing here, and now I really feel like we're back playing Talos Principle again. When you're doing this kind of thing, there's just something about it that feels iconic. Now, this is not good enough because we still need to shoot the blue over there. So I kind of missed a step. So I need to do one thing here. I need to basically break this up. Did that not break it up? Wow. I'm the one getting Okay, so this thing just keeps going no matter what. Me getting in the way does not break it up. Unless I can probably take the hexahedron, it looked like. Okay. Just slow down for a second. Now, hold on a minute. Wait, this thing is still connected. Are you serious? I didn't know this was possible. Once you've got this up in the air, you don't need the box anymore for it. Hello? I'm sitting here a little bit flabbergasted because I don't remember ever being able to do this in the first game. Is this new? Or did I just never try it? Okay, I don't think it's important. I think we just need to... We do need maybe this box to break this signal. Wait, I need to break... No, maybe I can't break the signal. Maybe I just need to do the same thing I did with the box. And is get up here. That's funny. I actually don't interfere with the... I don't interfere with the accumulator, and it doesn't interfere with me. We're just kind of happily coexisting because that's how Talos physics work when fans are involved. But I want to take this connector. Will you please? There we go. Okay. I think the only thing, the additional step that I needed to do was bring this in. Because now we can put things back the way they were. And we should be good to go. Keep the connections, but also power this. That should work, question mark? I think that is probably going to do the trick. Let's go see. Some funky stuff going on here, though. Some, my understanding of what goes on in Talos is being challenged a bit. I have to keep in mind, we aren't, well, at least I hope we aren't in a simulation anymore. Who knows exactly what's going on? But theoretically, if we're in the real world, things should behave more like you would expect them from a physics standpoint. I am obsessing probably over details that I don't need to worry about. Let's just take our progress wheel here and get on with life, because the puzzle has been solved. That's the important part. And we'll just let you keep doing your thing. Some new interface content here. Check that out in a minute.
What is it now?
Why did you upload a picture of your hand?
Why do you care that my hand is in the picture?
Your hand isn't in the picture, it is the picture.
I like it. It's very artistic.
Let's stay professional, everyone. It's not right to make fun of Melville's comically absurd inability to take decent pictures. She's a hyper-advanced humanoid machine, not a photographer.
You'll pay for this, Byron.
Moving right along, let's go ahead and get another Miranda audio log here.
Is it possible that on some level,
Athena this time.
people want to believe that everything's going to get worse? That it's comforting to think that humanity is bad and every solution will just go wrong? Because that way you're never responsible. You never have to take on responsibility for anything outside yourself. Never have to grow up.
I think I see the lost lab over here in that direction. So we can check that out here after we take a look at Puzzle 6. Reconnaissance. We have a green source. And an accumulator. And a pressure plate. And a driller wall. The green source is over here, and there are a lot of other pieces of equipment. Driller, connector, RGB converter. I'm looking forward to the puzzle where we have every single mechanic that we've seen so far. We would have to have cloning included, so we'll wait till we get another cloning puzzle, maybe. Okay, what do we want to do? I think the first thing we have to do, there's nothing else to do except put this here so we can get into this part of the level. So the RGB converter is behind a blue powered force field, although there is also a red, or not a red, a purple barrier. 2 purple barriers, it looks like. Can we get around over here? No. We need to... There's a pressure plate here to take down this force field. Okay. We need the accumulator. probably to get this blue signal. And now we put it here. So now we have an RGB converter. And we probably now want... What do we want? We can bring... It's interesting that they're giving us purple barriers here. Because we can go through here. And we could also potentially shoot the RGB converter through here. But one thing we can definitely do is we can lower this force field. Okay, so we're starting to open up the area at least, but I still haven't quite made sense of what we're trying to do. Ultimately, we need a red and a blue to get to the end. And there's that green source. So to get red, we use the RGB converter, combining green and blue. We have this driller here, which we can take around this side now. And it allows us to... We're not able to drill a wall through the vertical bars. We have to be on this side. Drilling that wall lets us do what? What exactly does that... I suppose if we change the location of that hole, moved it over here, then that would allow us line of sight with this. So it also allows us to put a piece of equipment through. That's the other important point here, because right now there's a purple barrier blocking us. So it would seem to make sense. I think there's maybe a couple things you could do. Because you could bring a connector through and then use a connector to shoot green back. But it probably makes a lot more sense to bring the accumulator through. I'm not sure that we need to power this blue force field anymore. But even if we did, I think we can do that by using something else on this pressure plate and just bring the connector over here to give line of sight. So let's assume for now that we're supposed to take this accumulator, discharge it, drop it through here, and charge up with green. So now green is on the go. Green is on the go, and in order to produce red, what we could do is maybe take this to get blue over, and then we just need we would need the RGB converter like right here. We would need the RGB converter here. Can we do that? Like, do we need the jammer anymore? Is the jammer any longer useful other than being a paperweight? Because now I can bring this accumulator here. I should have brought this out. But I can also use this here as a paperweight, and I did not mean to connect that there. I just wanted to put it down. So this is fine. I'm being a little bit complicated about this. Don't need to be this complicated. Just put that there. All I want to do is power this momentarily so I can get the converter out. I should have taken it out with me before. But I think this is going to work. I feel like we can simply take blue, put it here, and now we have blue and red, sorry, blue and green to make red. And we're there. Out of my game. Unfortunately, what I cannot seem to get out of my game is this interface content that wants to constantly pop up. So let's check our social media here. My farming obsession, what? So I've been playing a ton of this old Gehenna game called Ancient Human Farmer. The title says it all. It's a sort of simple farming simulator. Maybe not the most sophisticated game, but I'm getting really obsessed with it. And I'm having some sort of emotional response to it that I can't exactly explain. Like it makes me happy. It makes me happy, but also sad. Does anyone have any idea why this is happening to me? The game appeals to you because of the human need to commune with nature, to live a lifestyle that's not about dominating the world, but coexisting with it. You're sad because we can't ever return to being who we used to be thousands of years ago, but happy because it reminds you that at least something similar is still possible for us. Maybe it's because the people of Gehenna, despite their imprisonment, had an innocent view of the world that is permanently lost to us. I think it's actually the opposite of what Ovis is saying. These games are enjoyable because they take us back to a time when we still had agency, when we could build things, grow things, when we could impose our will on the world instead of being completely powerless and inactive. What you crave is the ability to contribute to humanity in real material ways, and you're sad because just simulating it is not enough. You don't want to farm, you want to be a pioneer, as we humans were born to be. It's just a game, don't overthink it. Actually, that's not a bad line. Do I agree with anybody here? I think I do actually agree with Pellegrino, because ultimately, it is a game. Don't overthink it. As much as I'm an overthinker, you shouldn't overthink it. It's just a goddamn game. There's a first time for everything. Where's Melville? Melville would be right on board with that. Oh, right. We also had the Lost Lab over here. So while we are in the neighborhood, let's check that out. What are we going to find this time? We need some schematics, right? That's the one thing we're looking out for. Melville's looking for some schematics. Can I not get in there? Okay. Wonder if we can open that eventually. Oh, Byron is in here. Hello. That's where you've been all this time.
This is where they must have lived. Athena and Miranda.
Is it?
You know, for a moment, I almost expected to find them here. But the only thing that's still functional is the megastructure. I'm sorry. This must be
that was kind of
strange
scary
for you being thrown into all this history. But that's why I needed you. Because you're not burdened with all these memories and conflicts and regrets. Weigh on our minds like a nightmare.
I was having a little trouble figuring out what you were saying there because I was so taken aback by that quick turnaround. There was something very horror movie-esque about that. Because you're not burdened with all these memories and conflicts and regrets that weigh on our minds like a nightmare. A nightmare, really?
Our civilization is caught in a loop, 1K. We freed ourselves from the simulation, but now we're trapped again, and it's our own fault. We're afraid of taking responsibility, afraid of growing up. Instead, we make up some capitalized words and build up all these myths around them. Nature, balance, the founder, the goal. We're afraid to face the randomness of the cosmos, but equally afraid to imagine a better world. So we're stuck. I've been trying to find a way out for years. Something, anything, to get people to understand that we do actually have free will, that building a thriving, expanding civilization doesn't have to involve repeating the mistakes of the past. But I failed. Over and over.
And so you think what we've discovered here could change things?
Yes. Because this is something unexpected, an anomaly. Everything we found on this island challenges who we have become. It shows us that different answers are possible. And maybe that can break people out of the loop. All we need is a spark. Maybe that's why she made all this. The puzzles, the towers. A way of jolting us out of our complacency.
There is something to be said about having, trying something different, having something that is out of the ordinary that just kind of sparks you into a new way of doing things, or having a feeling like there's a new energy that you can make some progress with. But I'll go with the hopeful answer. I hope so.
Thank you, 1K. I hope so too. We might be wrong, but let's be optimistic. Now, let's see what else we can find here.
So I didn't get a chance to look at what we were seeing here. I kind of just rushed in on the conversation with Byron. But we have a chessboard. What is this over here? I'm not sure. Maybe this was where Athena and Miranda hung out and played some chess. That's kind of cool. Little fireplace here. A makeshift campsite. Simulated campsite. It almost feels a little bit like a museum exhibit. Like we should be like looking at the statues in here, the man-made statues of you know, cavemen and saber-toothed tigers. Byron is an interesting sort. I was a little scared there that he was maybe starting to get kind of possessed. He just was very scary looking the way he turned to us. But he also has some big ideas and some very big visions. They just happen to differ from some of the other visions that people have subscribed to.
Melville, eyes on 1K stream. Is this thing what I think it is?
Blow my fuse box.
I didn't even get a look at it.
Best not touch it until I get there.
I didn't even get a look at it. I was trying to digest what I was looking at. This is one of the things about this game. It threw us into a group call. It's like, eyes on 1K stream. Yo, I would like to have eyes on my own stream, but we're having a group call and I can't see anything anymore. What was the question? Best not touch it till I get there? Fine with me, I guess. It is probably sound advice, but what the heck is it? I didn't even get a look at it.
I think it's a somnodrome. It's a sort of
A what?
analytics tool for processing mental data that Melampus streamed up.
But all he ever did was sketch out the theory. As far as I'm aware, he never actually built one.
Looks like the founder gave it a go.
A somnodrome? An analytics tool for processing mental data. Yeah, so how exactly does it work?
Well, what we know is that our deeper algorithms are hard to pass. Melampus stipulated that the computational power to interpret them in real time would always be beyond us. But in theory, the somnodrome would interpret that data and loop it directly to our senses.
People were hoping to find answers to the big questions by having a conversation with our own subconscious. If you ask me, it's solipsistic at best, and pseudoscience regardless.
That may be. But if the founder figured it out, then that device could be an extremely important discovery.
Gosh, I can only imagine being wired in directly to your subconscious, almost like a debugging mode. Is that what we're getting at here? Debugging your subconscious? Kind of scary, but also something that I definitely would be willing to try.
I would advise against it. You may have survived all those data stream overloads, but interface with that thing and you're liable to get bricked. Not to mention risking the data we could get from it.
Melville, you're such a party pooper. But you're also probably right. I think the smart answer here is to go with the sage advice of Melville. Let's get the data instead. But I kind of want to be a rebel here and plug in. Because what the heck? I want to try it.
Sorry, Melville, but if 1K wants to do this, I won't get in the way. It's his decision.
Understood. But if 1K starts to smoke, don't be slow to pull the plug.
That is true. Byron is here. Byron can bail us out, right, if we need to? Can we go through here? No. Okay, just to be thorough, we'll check the palm reader here as well. Sonodrome prototype. There is a bit more information about this. Author Athena. Melampus believes that the answers we're looking for, the correct way for the individual to exist ethically in society and the world, are within us. Our failure, to him, was not failing to create a better system, but failing to truthfully reflect what already exists within our minds. A failure of connection between the high and the low, the inner and the outer. On most days, that seems wrong to me, but sometimes when I think of where New Jerusalem is headed, I wonder if the Somnodrome doesn't hold an answer after all. I took some time to build a prototype according to the original blueprints, but there's a lot Melampus didn't account for. Still, I'm almost certain I could apply some of my own knowledge and make it work. The question is, should I? Well, you know what? That's what we're here for, because we're 1K and we just say, screw it, hook up to the Somnodrome. What happens when we hook up? This is probably a bad idea. Probably a terrible idea. Oh dear. What have I done? I feel great, guys. No problems.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I don't know. I should have listened to Melville. No, I can hear you just fine.
What did I say? You fried it.
No.
Who knows what data we've lost?
Oh, fried the Somnodrome. I regret nothing.
Melville, I still think it's worth you coming here to take a look. 1K, let's pack up and explore the rest of this lab.
Okay. Wow, we also get a private message as well. Oh, it's from Melampus regarding the Somnodrome. We also have a research thing also regarding the Somnodrome, the prototype device discovered by 1K. Melampus 8, one of the loopier first companions, dreamed up the Somnodrome back in the day. It was supposed to help us visualize the black box that is our own internal algorithms and so provide some kind of moral or spiritual insight. It never properly worked, of course. Apparently the founder, though, took an interest and experimented further with the technology, correcting some of the mistakes Melampus made. Still a load of tosh, if you ask me, but maybe she made it work. I don't know. It didn't. It just spun a thing around our heads and yeah, that was it. Like, did it do something else? Let's find out. Melampus. Maybe Melampus knows something about this. Or this is just a social media. No, it's a private thing, right? To all of you on this expedition. So you can send a private thread to the expedition members. I'm sure you have questions about the Somnodrome, but I'm afraid I can't answer them. It was a dream I had a long time ago when I was a different person, and it has long since faded. I did build a prototype of sorts, at least of one part of its systems, but none of it ever functioned the way I wanted it to. Whatever Athena may have done with my invention, the truth is that I'm simply not interested in the affairs of New Jerusalem anymore. I care as little for Byron's utopianism as I do for Herman's religious pessimism. I'm not sure I care about anything at all, really. In fact, I think not caring may be the only answer at the end of the day. Everything is transient, even the self. I've learned to let go. Please do not respond. I value my privacy. Wow, Melampus seems like just such a cheery individual. Okay, a lot going on with the Somnodrome. Some interesting ideas to ponder as we continue to have with this game. For now, we'll push on to puzzle number 7. I did note that there was a pathway over there, which maybe leads to a lost puzzle. There's a question mark over in that direction. But for the moment, let's check out Rainbow. Whoa, there are so many receivers here. We apparently have to power 5 receivers in order to get to the goal. I love this. It's very much like was it the very first puzzle or the second puzzle, I think? The second puzzle where we just had the one converter and the one accumulator, and we had to fill in 3 connections. Now we have 2 converters, an accumulator, and we have 5 connections that we need to make. So I'm assuming that it is going to be similar to the second puzzle where you're going to have one piece of equipment on the inside that supplies red. You're going to have another one a step back from that can supply both of the blues, and then finally another that is angled at the end and can supply both greens. We have both red and blue. Maybe we are supposed to begin by just having green supplied by this converter. That seems a reasonable enough start. Then, if we wanted to supply blue, could we simply just have the accumulator take red and put that on the inside? Just kind of put that directly next to it. And then have green and red taken by this converter. We obviously have to hook it up to the blue, but... Okay. Puzzle number 7 maybe was the easiest of them all. I don't know. That one just intuitively fell into line for me. But we kind of were given the roadmap with that second puzzle. So I think that lesson was internalized. Who knows if there is another layout? They could maybe put these in a different order. You could get pretty crazy. I kind of like the idea of having all of these connectors in this where you have to come up with a creative way of interconnecting and laying out the beams to where they're not interfering with each other. Like if you had some boxes that you needed to kind of elevate things in a different way so that they don't cross the streams, you can get really fun with those. But I'm okay to have a nice, quick, simple puzzle.
Wow, that one was a mind bender.
Maybe for you, Yakut. Maybe for you. But let's quickly check this side path that we had over here. It does look like maybe it is another lost puzzle. So let's grab this while we're in the neighborhood. Check out the second lost puzzle here, which is Lateral Inhibition. I like that name. Now, how are we inhibited exactly? There is a fan on the wall here that is going to power up when we also try to take down this force field. And both of those are connected to red. There's a red receiver. That cable connects to both of those things. So we could just use this inverter. We have an inverter and an accumulator. We could just do this, but I think this keeps us from going down this hallway because it turns on the fan. So what we can do instead is we can accumulate blue. And from this side, we do have the horizontal bars that allow us to get through here. Let's just do that first. Let's put blue here. The blue accumulator sits there, and we'll take that and invert it. No, we need it to be not like that. We need to just connect it to the red first. Then we go to this side and hook it up. Now this force field is down, but we have one more force field to go. We have a pressure plate. Lateral inhibition. We need to be able to move laterally here. How do we get something onto this pressure plate? We only have the accumulator and the inverter, correct? And in order to lower this force field, we have to power that. We have to power that red receiver. But then we need something to go. What I'm thinking we need to do it would be great if somehow what am I thinking of here? What I was thinking is that is there some way? Maybe what I'm thinking of is not possible. What am I thinking of? I was thinking this inverter can sit on this side. I was thinking of doing some sort of delayed, like the way that we can get to as far as we have. The way we do that is only in hooking up the inverter to the receiver. And then that lets us power it from over here. But what I really need to be able to like I can deactivate this. Can I do that actually? Huh, this one is kind of stumping me initially here because I'm not seeing how I can, like the initial hurdle here of getting through this force field seems straightforward enough, but then I need something to be on here and on this pressure plate, and the only thing I can think of would be this accumulator. But if I lift up the accumulator, I lose the force field. These bars don't let me shoot through, right? I mean, where would I shoot through anyways? These bars just look a little different than I've seen before, so I thought maybe for a second there was a new mechanic that we were trying to learn here. The inverter, there's no way for us to kind of, you know, I guess what I was trying to explain and I never got around to was trying to think if there's a way that the inverter can sort of delay its, like, it would be great if eventually I could have it connected to here, like this. There is a delay before it powers things up, isn't there? There is a, not long enough of a delay though. That hallway is long enough to where the fan is powered up before I can get through. Because I kind of need maybe that's what I was thinking of doing, was using the beam from this, using the beam from the accumulator. Oh, now one thing I hadn't thought of is that the accumulator can accumulate red. I, of course, was overlooking that, wasn't I? So we can, let's take this inverter. This is the new mechanic. Accumulators, you can materialize a source that is not there. I need to discharge this though, and then I can accumulate red. Now what? Now what do we do? Because if I turn this on, let me think here. Let me think. Maybe this is still not the answer. Because accumulating red doesn't actually do anything for me. Does it? Because if the only thing I could do from over here is I could shoot this to the inverter. But what good does that do? I end up with a blue signal and there's no blue receptors anywhere. So... Huh. I love these puzzles where there's so little going on. Some of the puzzles, you'll have an area that is so spread out and there's so many different angles to consider. So many different possibilities. This one feels like there are so few. And yet it is kind of stumping me. What am I overlooking? Let's take this and discharge this and kind of start from scratch. I have a blue source. I can accumulate both blue and red. But so far, the only idea that has occurred to me that gets me any sort of progress is by accumulating blue and then having the inverter hooked up here. Is there any way that I can also hook up the inverter to the blue source without it transmitting to red yet? Can I do that? Like if I put it over here, I could put it behind a wall where I lost the connections. I could put it behind a wall where it is blocked from seeing blue, but still sees red. And then I could probably take the accumulator back over here and do the same thing that I did before. But that doesn't really get me anywhere because the moment I take the accumulator away, my force field's gone. Like, it's like I need a way for this to eventually have a stable connection from blue to red, having the inverter have a stable connection eventually once I'm over here on the other side. But I'm not sure if I can make that happen mechanically with what I've got. And so maybe that's the wrong idea to be thinking about. Like anywhere that I put this inverter, anywhere that I put the inverter, I don't think I can shoot the beam. Well, let's find out. I need to disable this for the moment. Let's find out what happens here. Let's do a little experimentation. So actually, I need to also shoot that to red. Let's find out. Connect that and then connect that there. It does nothing because the inverter is receiving, I guess, 2 blues. It's receiving 2 blue sources, which it is okay with. Now, if it were to do something else, let's discharge this, and now let's absorb or accumulate red. Now, if I hook this up here, what happens? It does actually deactivate it. That deactivates the inverter. That deactivates the inverter. So with that knowledge, I think what I can do is reset everything. Let's discharge this. And let's break this. Because now, what I think we can do is accumulate blue here. First, we start by accumulating blue, and now we put this here. I should have done one more step. Just what I did before. Just connecting that to the receiver. And then we hook up this here. Well, I don't have to do that yet, do I? Maybe I can't do this. What I wanted to do was accumulate red from this side. Oh, I can. Because I don't have to... I can accumulate red from this side because I don't have to hook up the inverter to the connector. I don't have to activate that fan. I just do this, and this allows me... This allows me to do this. Discharge. No, that doesn't work. Discharge. And it's now connected to red, so now it should accumulate red. And now, I think what we do is we shoot that to the inverter. So now the inverter has two conflicting inputs, which means that if we keep the connections and we connect it here, we should get no output. So our fan is not yet active. But we have established a connection from the blue emitter to the red receiver. So that once I do go to this other side, this is essentially acting like a jammer. Jammers can't actually jam these kinds of pieces of equipment, but that's what we've done. We've formulated a way. This is actually a pretty cool puzzle. But we have a way now to jam this piece of equipment, which allows us to bring this to this other side. Haha, that is my favorite one of this area. Because it was so simple or not very complex. It was not very involved. And yet, you really had to think. You had to think in a way. What was it called again? Right, lateral inhibition. You had to think non-laterally? I like that. So we've got puzzle 8 here, and it does look like there is another terminal to grab nearby, so why don't we go ahead and get that. Consume, author unknown. Name Vox Pop number 9, from an interview with a protester outside the Institute for Applied Noematics. So why did you join this protest? Artificial intelligence is inherently dangerous to this planet's ecosystem. Defending that ecosystem is our responsibility. In which way is artificial intelligence dangerous? I'm not some paranoid idiot imagining Skynet taking over the world, alright? That's science fiction. But what we're talking about here is an artificial intelligence without any of the attachment we have to the natural world. It's not capable of distinguishing between, say, an ore and a tree. Everything's just resources to it. People like Cerebai and Drennan talk about ethics and philosophy, but they all embrace the same extractivist ethos that has brought us to the brink of disaster. Their intelligent being would try to optimize the world in its image, and in so doing, consume it. Got a garbled question here, but so far they're saying it's all theoretical. The atom bomb was theoretical at first too. Once something is there, someone's going to use it. Miranda, why couldn't they imagine that we might care about the world? Athena, I don't know. Maybe because they were too used to no one else caring. And we've got Founding 5, another entry from Hypatia's journal. Day 200, construction on our new home is coming along nicely. We finished 2 new buildings last week, and this week we started on our new lodgings. Athena and Cornelius have plans to erect a tower in the middle of the settlement, which will serve as our administrative center and main heliport. But right now, that's still a long way off, decades at the least. It's hard to imagine that one day we'll be able to erect structures like that there will be enough of us to need that much space. But then I look at the dam and I remind myself, our ancestors built that with their short lifespans and soft flesh and bone bodies. And then I think that there's really no limit to what we can achieve given enough time, patience, and the capacity to dream. It was definitely one of the first things that I thought of when I saw New Jerusalem. I thought, how the heck did just 1,000 robots build this? But you give enough time, and it has been, what, like 1,000 years since they came out of the dam? With enough time and enough thought and effort, there's a lot that you can build, just like looking at a dam and saying, how the heck did the ancient humans build that? And we've got an audio log from our favorite, Trevor.
Strap in, this is a long one. You may have heard the story
I can hardly
of the
wait.
carpenter who died to redeem humanity's sins. It's a powerful story, bittersweet, very human, and I just want to tell you that it's true. He was a real person, and his name was John Carpenter. He was born in the year 1948, and he was the coolest filmmaker to ever walk the earth. From Halloween to The Thing to They Live, the totally underrated In the Mouth of Madness, mind you, he just made classic after classic. All of his movies, really fun, really atmospheric, but also really smart. Even when they were goofy, most directors would kill to have made just one of those movies. And what did he get for it? A big, fat truckload of nothing. Well, less than nothing. The studios, the critics, even the fans, they hated him. The Thing, okay, for example, which is about as perfect a movie as you can make, completely torn to shreds. And his career never really recovered. Every movie after that was a struggle, and after a while, he just got tired of it and quit. He only really came back to movies in his 70s. How many works of genius did we never get because of that? Look, I have a point here. People like Carpenter, people like Alex, they're not always appreciated in their own time. If you just do what's popular, you might never create anything important. Of course, we admire people who did the right thing, who didn't conform, but we only ever admire them after the fact. What matters is to support people when it's difficult.
Okay, puzzle number 8. Remember, we have a connector, we have a red source, and then we have an accumulator and a fan, which I did not see the first time through. We activate that with this. Okay, got it. Now, does this, it doesn't look like it lines up. It doesn't line up with the other fan over here, which also is activated by pressure plate. But it does give us the ability to potentially bring stuff inside and outside of this little area. Why is that important? Eventually, we want to get the red signal down here. And we don't have the ability to do that with just this connector. So what we need is almost certainly the accumulator. Can we just make the accumulator accumulate? We can. Not sure I tried that yet. Now we need a way to get the accumulator out. That's the trick here. So if I put this on that platform, it doesn't elevate it, right? It just blows it sideways. You need the box to have it elevated. And I can't like I can't do a funny thing here where I grab the accumulator while I'm in the air, can I? I don't think it wants us to do that. But what does it want us to do? Because we kind of need to get this accumulator out. Or we need to get this connector in. But I'm not sure I see a way to do either of those. These fans are not directly connected to each other. You don't just self-sustain in the air like we had with that one puzzle. So what are we doing? Oh, of course. We can shoot the accumulator through here. Or the accumulator, we have access to it through the purple barrier. I'm starting to get overcomplicated here thinking about extracting equipment from inside of an area of the puzzle. But we don't have to think that far ahead yet because we do get a box. Now we might have to think that far because the box allows us to do that. There's a red connector to open our way to the progress wheel, which we need to elevate. There is also a red connector on this side. Oh, I was wondering what the hell this new... I saw this outline on the ground, which now I see is a rotating connector. That's the first time we've ever seen that. I was wondering, though, what in the hell is going on here? Because I saw the cable connecting to the force field. That is really cool. You can turn a wall. Huh. What do you know? You need something on that pressure plate to turn the wall, and then that red connector is going to power this force field. Okay. There is a lot going on with this puzzle. What do we want to do? Maybe the first step is doing what I wanted to do earlier, which is sending this box across. And then sending this accumulator across. Along with the box. So now all of our equipment is here on the outside. That should... That probably is powerful enough to get us a solution here. If I do this, I can now actually just power both of these. Now that is redundant at the moment, but if I take this connector over here, if I take this connector and I say, connect you to this, but also connect to you. So I connect it to the accumulator and this guy. Can I? That's pretty cool. Because the angle, I see, the angle is still such to where this red beam from the accumulator is still in line of sight by the time the beam from the connector also comes into play. So it's always being powered. The connection's never being broken, even though we're turning at 180 degrees. Which means now I can just come over here and bring in the accumulator. No, I cannot bring the accumulator in because now that would lose power here. I really probably needed to switch these. I think that might be what I need to do, is I need to switch where the accumulator and the connector are. The connector actually needs to be over here. Can I do that? Can I even do that? If I pick up the accumulator at any point, then that force field goes down. How do I get... Wait, do I even need to worry about that? I kind of do, don't I? Because in order to get line of sight, it feels like I need to bring the accumulator in here. How do I do that? What's the last step? What's the last step here? The only way to lower that force field is with a red signal to either side of it. And if I lift that accumulator at any point, it goes down. Can I do what I wanted to do with the connector? The original red source is way down here, right? The original red source is here. And it doesn't really have... You have to have something. You have to have a connector or an accumulator that gets you, like, to this point. I don't know that the red emitter is involved anymore at all, but we should be careful about discounting that. But I feel like any solution that we come up with has to have the accumulator down at this end. I'm just having a little trouble seeing how I get it through this force field. If I bring this over to this side... That's the problem, is I can't lift the accumulator without dropping the force field. Right? What am I missing here? Is there something that... Using this pressure plate turns this. Does it do anything else? It wouldn't do anything else, would it? How do I do this without moving the accumulator across to this side of the force field? Because if I'm just trying to... I don't think I can get an angle. Maybe I should consider this before I might have just been discounting out of hand what this allows me to do. Where can I actually... Even if I go here, I'm still not... Yeah, in order to hit this receiver, I think I have to get the box much closer. I have to get the box much closer, which means I can't... I no longer have line of sight to the accumulator, which is over on this side. I have to bring the accumulator across here, I'm pretty sure. Feels like one of those assumptions that I'm not 100% sure about, and I could be wrong. But I'm definitely not quite seeing it at the moment. There's only one color in this puzzle, correct? There's no other color besides red. We don't have RGB converters. We don't have inverters. I think we're done with these fans. It feels like we're done with this side of the puzzle. Is there anything that these fans could potentially do? Maybe we're not done with the fans. Maybe we're not done with the fans because I wonder... Maybe I can't do what I'm thinking of doing, though. My idea... I think my idea was to bring the accumulator over to this side of the barrier without it having red, and then get it to accumulate by putting the connector up in the air with the fans. That connector being hooked up to the original red emitter. That has a couple problems with it. One of them being that, how do I get the accumulator across at all, regardless of whether it has accumulated a red signal? I can't bring it across here in the first place. If I were able to solve that problem, I wouldn't need to do that jury rig solution with a connector in the air. Gosh, it feels like we're done with this part of the puzzle, but I'm at a bit of an impasse. I'm not seeing what needs to be done the rest of the way here. What does this allow us to do? It allows us to... This allows us to power or deactivate this force field from here. That is what it allows us to do, actually. It's actually me failing to recognize what can be done and getting overcomplicated with things, because it allows us to leave the force field open from this angle. We were not done with this side of the puzzle. We were done with the fans, but we can, from this angle, simply do this. And now we can pick this up. And now we're golden, right? Because we just put the box over here and we have an accumulator. Oh my God, it was staring me in the face this whole time. You sometimes just need to take a step back take a step back, take a deep breath, hydrate. Oh, I have to hook that up. And get a new perspective. And then you get the win. You have to remember. That's the name of the puzzle, right? So now I think the only thing that is left, I don't think we have any other question marks. I think we've explored the Lost Labs. We found all the palm readers. The only thing left now is the Sphinx star. So now that we've been around the island, we have a mental map of where everything is at. Let's re-examine this. I think we've already activated both of these switches here, but there's one more to activate, and it's near the tower. So let's take a look out here. Is it this over here? Is it this monument or tower that's on this little small island? Which looks like maybe we need to start building the Tetromino bridge. So I guess let's do that. Let's start making our way here with the Tetromino bridge, and in the process, perhaps we will solve the Sphinx puzzle. So far, these Tetromino bridges have been incredibly straightforward. I guess we get another audio log on the way, though.
Sometimes it seems the only choices we have are renouncing civilization or mindless expansion. But that's not the only path forward. Embracing deliberate control over nature doesn't have to mean destruction. We are a species of artists and artisans, blessed with the ability to transform the raw material of the cosmos into new and better shapes. Shapes that have meaning. With our technology, we can take this chaotic world, so full of suffering, and turn it into a work of art.
And it does, in fact, look like there is another switch over here. So is it just as simple as activating 3 switches? Okay, all right. Is it just me, or did this world in general feel so much simpler than the previous? We did have a couple there that were a little mind-bending for a moment, but I feel like it might just be the layout of this area, the fact that it's not some mountain that you have to do a bunch of climbing up and down, and maybe I just exhausted myself going all the way around that island and not finding anything. It just felt more tiresome and more exhausting than it needed to be. But we now have our Sphinx star, and that is, I think, all there is to do in this world.
None may know what came first, error or sin, and yet every choice depends on it.
I still have absolutely zero idea what the Sphinx is talking about, but I do want to explore just a little bit more first before we head to the tower, because I did, we still can't get in the Golden Gates here, but we actually can see, this is like the first time we've been able to like almost fully see inside one of them. We won't think about that right now, though. I did just want to see this little structure over here. Looked kind of curious to me, and maybe one that we could get to? Question mark? The water is actually shallow enough here. Oh, there's another audio log that we almost missed. Okay, we'll grab the Stratton of Sagira audio log. There you go.
To us who have only just begun this journey of philosophy, the world may seem like a mystery that can never be solved. A great deal has been written since the days of the 7 sages, but how much of it is truth and how much of it is idle speculation? I have offended many by saying that most philosophy will, as the centuries pass, be discarded as foolishness and superstition. But it is a truth only philosophers fail to see. And yet we cannot abandon reason and conclude that we cannot know anything. Rather, we must accept that the journey towards understanding will be long, and our task is to build a foundation for those who will one day arrive at its destination.
I should also take a quick moment and talk a little bit about the photo mode that they have included here in the pause screen, at least on PC. I don't think this is available on the PlayStation version, which is the one that my brother has. I guess maybe PlayStation has its own built-in photo mode. I'm not sure about Xbox or other platforms, but if you are on PC, there is a pretty cool photo mode that lets you really elevate your camera here and really gets you know, the whole bird's eye view of a level. And it is something that I have been, you know, taking a little bit of advantage of just to kind of get a look around sometimes and see where everything's at. So if you do have that on PC and you haven't found it already, it's kind of cool to play around with, and also lets you get some really sweet screenshots. Let's go ahead and take one right there, add this to the album. Boom, there we go. Okay, I feel a little more confident that we have scoured thoroughly this area. I don't suppose there would be anything to the sides to find here. Probably not, but we'll just give a quick look. But I think we are ready to light another beam. We found a whole bunch of audio logs. We've done the puzzles. We've gotten our stars. This area definitely felt much more approachable than the last. Well, let's head up our anti-gravity elevator. Who do we have? Pandora.
Halt, creature of clay. You have taken another step towards the flame. Before you continue, ask yourself, have the gifts of Prometheus ever truly benefited your people? Or have they brought nothing but strife?
I do love that they always give you the snarky answer. Lady, I'm a robot. What the hell do I know? I think this time, though, I will answer that we have made mistakes in using them, but the good outweighs the bad.
And you repeat your mistakes until they destroy you.
Maybe. way to be a Debbie Downer. We get our laser, though. We get our laser. Lighting the beam. It is that time. Blue beam. Activate. Flooded Valley. Complete.
There's 3 towers per cardinal direction and 3 entities. You'd think it would be symmetrically arranged. 1 tower per entity, right? But we haven't seen Prometheus at all.
We're built to find patterns. Maybe we're trying to find patterns where there aren't any.
1K, please investigate the coordinates I'm sending you.
Oh, okay. So there is maybe still to do here in terms of schematics in a lab in the flooded valley, because we did not actually find, we found the lost lab, but we didn't find any schematics for Melville to activate the next area. I was still in the mode of thinking about that Yakut actually had a point. We have not seen Prometheus in any of the 3 towers. Any of the towers at the end of any of the levels that we've seen. And we haven't really seen him in general outside of the beginning of the game. The 1K celebration was the first time that we saw him. And I think the only time, other than, of course, the monuments, right? The monuments that, each of the monuments that have the stars. So what is up with that? Is Prometheus, I guess he's supposed to be a trickster. Does that mean he just works from the shadows? What's going on with him? But I guess before we wrap up, we will go for the additional objective here and see if we can find the extra or the schematics that we did not find before down here in the lab. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I didn't go in a door I was supposed to go in. Maybe I missed something, and this is what happens when the game is like, hey, you missed something. Okay, this door I could not go in before. So maybe I did miss a switch. This door, I need to open it, actually. Is that what's going on here? Because it doesn't open on its own, and that's where that is where the objective is pointed, isn't it? Or is it over here? Is it over this way? Oh, okay. I had to go the roundabout way. I'm pretty sure that door was not open either, but maybe I didn't investigate thoroughly enough. Okay, that door doesn't open, but we do have... Okay, we have a whole section of the lab that I missed. And maybe we finally have a preview of our next mechanic. What is going on here? We have a rock that's kind of being suspended, and then... It's actually the particles, right? The particle clouds are kind of creating the rock. Like, they've been creating all sorts of things. Towers, copies of 1K. But in this case, it's it looks almost like a transporter beam. We're transporting a rock from one side to the other. A holographic rock. We're really getting the Star Trek references in here. Is it possible to beam a hologram? That was in fact an entire Star Trek episode, wasn't it? Was it Moriarty? Where Moriarty was saying, hey, there's a way for you to like teleport me outside of the holodeck. It's actually a really good episode. Getting a little distracted by Star Trek here, which is not a bad distraction, but what do we do about this? We don't have to do anything about this other than wonder if it's our next puzzle mechanic. So a cool thing to check out. Let's see the palm reader here. And we probably have a couple more readings. We do have several more readings here. So a little bit, I don't know if I missed this or if it wasn't open before, but let's check these out. We've got from Thekla. Thekla, oh God, Thekla's our favorite. A letter to Athena, beloved founder, wherever you have gone, I continue to have faith in da-da-da-da-da. You are our mother, our creator, the chosen of the progenitor. I am certain that this is a test, a trial like the ones you faced in the simulation, and we will learn from your example and keep the faith. Praise your name. Keep writing those prayers, Thekla. Keep doing what you're doing. Noema Project 6. More notes about the trials. We're up into... The numbers keep climbing ever higher, up to trial 1701. Results confirm the anomaly is consistent. There was no error in trial 108. The error is in our understanding. We need to start over. Ooh, oh, this is Athena. Okay, I wonder if, we have some notes from previous labs. I might go back and check those, but Athena is the one making these notes. Next, from Miranda to Athena. I went ahead and ran the next set of trials anyway. I know you said to wait, but the data we got from the last batch was just too amazing. Every step leads to the next, like a progression of musical notes. We're so close. Miranda. And I guess let's go ahead and grab these schematics here. Noema Design 5358. We still don't know exactly what 5358 is a reference to, if it is a person, if it is something else entirely, or if it's just random data. It's just a number that keeps cropping back up here and there, and it doesn't really mean anything. But let's get the schematic. And we get an overload. Here we go. Here we go. Data stream time. Bring it on.
The singularity sustained itself longer this time.
Did we get the data?
We did. I think we just obsoleted quantum physics.
Maybe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to be able to replicate these results.
You know, I've been wondering. You told me that in the simulation, one thing that kept you motivated was looking for answers. Do you think that with the work we're doing, we'll ever run out of questions to ask?
I don't think so. Trying to understand the universe means asking the same question over and over. How? How do you make fire? How do earthquakes happen? How does gravity work? How do particles behave? You keep digging deeper, finding another set of mechanisms, another set of hows. Step by step, you demystify reality. But then, if you keep doing it long enough, one day, you run out. You've answered all the hows. You know how the universe works. So, now what?
Now you ask why? Isn't that the next step?
It's not quite that easy. The question of why cannot be answered. Even if it could, it would only be followed by another why. At some point, you have to accept that it all just exists. But there is another set of questions. What's next? You've stripped away the layers of mystery, you've laid bare the machinery. Now you have to start building, to add your own layers of meaning.
Cool. It's daytime for once. I feel like this is the first time we've had daytime in the simulation, the data stream. But they're out there breaking quantum physics.
Are you okay? You overloaded again.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I saw Athena again though, and Miranda.
Yes, I saw. It came through on your stream. Strange to hear her voice again, but that was her, the way I remember her. The real Athena, not this imaginary founder.
You want to tell me more about her?
I was one of the first she woke up. There was just a handful of us in those days. A small family in the ruins of a dead civilization. It was hard. Harder than anyone can possibly imagine. We had nothing except what Alexandra Drennan and the Institute left us. Now that everyone lives in civilization, they don't understand how necessary it was for us to build that civilization. They can fantasize about living in balance, limiting growth, retreating behind our walls. They don't understand what it really means to live in the wilderness. How close we came to not making it. How many people we lost. Yema was just the first. But Athena understood. She believed in humanity. She believed in us. In the inherent value of consciousness. Her dreams were so much bigger. She wanted us to reclaim the Earth, to reach for the stars, to build and grow and learn.
So then why isn't she remembered that way?
The city was already changing before she left, turning inwards, forgetting the future. Once she was gone, other people shaped her memory, turned her into the symbol they needed. I understand all that, as depressing as it may be. What I don't understand is why she didn't tell me. If she came here to do all this, why didn't she bring me along?
Perhaps she did what she thought she had to.
She did. She must have. I just don't understand. But if all this is a test, maybe there's an answer waiting for us in the megastructure. Speaking of which, let's get back to exploring. Melville should have reconnected the next station by now.
I totally agree with that sentiment, Byron, 100%. This has been so much fun. Another great area. Now this back door opens up. Okay, we had to go the long way. But we are going to keep exploring. We're going to keep pressing forward. There are so many interesting, big ideas, as always, to consider. Athena and Miranda, though, they seem like they are really screwing with the code of the universe, potentially. We'll have to think more about what they were talking about there, but it's been so much fun, and this is where we will wrap up this installment of Talos Principle 2. Another great area, another fun new mechanic in the Accumulator. How many new mechanics are they going to continue to introduce here? This is so much fun. I want to know what that next mechanic is going to be. Are we going to be transporting? We're up to transporting matter around, huh? That should make for some really fun puzzles. I cannot wait to find out. Thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.